Hello, scholars, and welcome back to week 3 of CJ485 Research Methods in Criminal Justice. I hope that we all have had a successful previous week as now we move and we transition into week 3, focusing on our research design and measurement. This is an exciting week for us because this is where we're going to start actually putting some of these pieces together that's actually going to start to go from a topic into a research project. So we had this broad project, or we had these broad topics that we uh, introduced in week 1. In week 2, you found that one topic that you thought might you were most interested in, you thought was most manageable, and you wrote on that. And now in week 3, we are going to now take that topic, that one that you have decided to work with, and see how we can now transition that broad topic into a research design and into a research project and start adding some elements of design and measurement to it. Now, I hope that you have recognized that this is a somewhat tedious process that we need to go through in order to reach this ultimate goal. And it's much like for many of you who are interested in working in the public sector in criminal justice, you've probably been introduced to a word called incrementalization, or that we do things very incrementalized into one small task at a time. And for us working in the public sector, we understand that that is the reality of working in the public sector, and especially in criminal justice. Things move at a very small pace and at one small increment at a time. And that's because when we're using government funds or we're using public funds, we need to ensure that things work correctly. And we don't have the luxury that someone in the private sector might to make radical changes. So we do these small steps at a time, and we make change, we identify the outcomes, and we either then continue or we adjust accordingly. And that is the same approach I hope that you recognize for this project, is that we're doing these small portions at a time, and then we're submitting them, we're analyzing them, we're seeing if it's going to work, and if it does work, we move forward, and if it doesn't, we need to correct. And we really need to keep that concept in mind here at the early stages of this class, that there are several assignments that you're going to submit, which you will probably get feedback, especially this assignment, where you might get feedback from me that might even say that this is not going to work, or that you need to give additional thought to this week's assignment. And that is okay, because if we can then take that feedback, adjust it accordingly, and move forward, we will then be successful farther on. So this will be the week where, for some of us, a broad topic is going to now need to be reanalyzed and looked at a lot more closely. And why I say that is when I read through all your topics this week, a lot of you have came up with large social problems. And a lot of you are trying to identify social problems which no one else has been able to answer yet to this point. And so you're thinking of a research project as a solution to a major social problem. As opposed to a research project is going to answer a question which can be measured, which is manageable, and that sometimes is going to have to take a large social problem and then maybe just look at one small, minute portion of it. So hopefully you don't think that this class is going to answer, or is that this concept is going to answer these large social problems. If we could do that, if we could through a simple process solve all the problems in society, then none of us would be here, or this would be the one class you would need to take. But we realize that that's not the case. We need to focus on much more specific, small, manageable portions. And what I mean by manageable is that you can actually answer this question through a scientific method, through research, through surveys, through gathering data and interpreting data. And that's what we're going to need to look forward to in our research design and measurement here in week 3. So if we look through, we have 2 chapters out of our reading that we're going to look at. Chapter 3, General Issues in Research Design, and Chapter 4, Concepts, Operationalization, and Measurement. And that Chapter 4 is going to be the chapter that I'm going to really focus on this week, because these are the key concepts. And this is something that typically in this class individuals have difficulty with, because rarely have we had to operationalize variables in the past. We've just assumed that everybody understood what we're talking about. And rarely do we need to have these tough discussions about how we actually are going to operationalize simple terms that might be common to everybody. So we're going to have those two. There's a series of PowerPoint lectures on problem statements and research questions that you want to go over and then do your reading, so it'll identify all the key points that you can see in your reading. There's a series of videos, one on operalization and one on the research questions, and then we go into our deliverables. So let's just go task by task. We have our problem statement, PowerPoint, problem statements and the research question, which will then we'll go over, which will tie directly into our reading, which will really get you a good footing and foundation as you move forward into creating your problem statement. There's a good video here on how to write and how to present an in-depth on that, on how one would construct a research question. So I feel that these videos, they complement the reading. For some of us, we read it, we see it, we listen to it, and then we then put all that together, and I think that knowledge and those ideas kind of, we're able to absorb them a lot easier. Then we have a PowerPoint lecture on concepts, operationalization, and measurement, like we had talked about previous, and a video on operationalization of our variables. So which once again, I believe is just a great video on these topics of how we will operationalize these variables in our research topic. And then that transitions into our deliverables this week. So our first deliverable, and once again, we realize that this is going to be due by the end of the week on Sunday, July 22nd at 11:59. And I'm going to read this to you. This week you will write a problem statement and a purpose statement. It is assumed that by now you have selected a topic of interest. Now you will be asked to focus on some aspect of that topic that is worthy of investigation. A good problem statement and research question will make the rest of the paper flow smoothly. An ill-informed or poorly worded question will complicate the rest of the writing process. Please read the feedback you will receive, as the small changes that you will make to these statements will make a big difference in the quality of your project moving forward. And I have posted a template and an example here in assignment 3 that will hopefully help you guide you through this. And let me open that for you. So here we go. The assignment should have the following structure. The problem, this is 2 to 3 paragraphs describing the particular issue or problem related to criminal justice. The purpose, keep in mind that this is hard to prove or explain. You are better off exploring a question. So the purpose of this study is to explore this concept. The concept defined may be a legal definition, maybe a social, psychological, or medical definition. Variables that are going to be proposed that can be measured, that we can measure the concepts. They can be both qualitative or quantitative, and expectations of how the variables are related to, in the form of a research question. This exercise will then become part of the statement of the problem and the purpose statement portion of the research prospectus. So, and then you can read through where I have given you a problem, an example with a problem statement, a purpose statement. We have the concepts that we need to define and the variables that we will look at. So I hope that helps you to look through and give you an example. There is also the rubric that's associated with it for the grading of this. And this is going to be our major assignment this week, because this is really going to help us move forward. So once again, our problem and our purpose statement, using the template and moving forward with then taking our topic into into a problem and purpose statement. We also have a quiz this week, quiz 3, based upon our reading. Once again, true, false. There is no time limit on this quiz, but once again, once you open it, it needs to be completed in one setting. So ensure that you have an adequate amount of time set aside. And then our week 3 journal. And the week 3 journal is, once again, you are writing to me. And what I want to do is I just want to get an update of how you are progressing through this course. I want to know what has been confusing, what has been most interesting or surprising, and what insight have I gained as a result of this week's activity. So give me some good scholarly thought. Remember, our writing skills that I'm looking for are looking at that 4th-year college student. I want some insight, some intellect. I just don't want to hear that, the course is going well and I'm learning a lot. Give me something of what has been difficult from this point forward, what has worked for you, and what what insight you have gained from this week's activities. And once again, that is going to be due on Sunday, 11:59 on here in week 3. So I hope that that answers your questions. I know a quick video. I think between the readings, the lectures, the videos, giving you an example, we should be successful. Don't be alarmed if in feedback this week you get some. This is probably the one step in this class where I'm going to spend the most amount of time between this week and your problem when you actually write your research question. So if you do get some negative feedback, don't be alarmed. That isn't a bad thing. What that is that so that we can correct it early now at this point, so that you can be a lot more successful. You might even get to the point that I want you to redo an assignment, just so that we can capture that early and that we can be more successful later on. So once again, I hope that we all have a blessed week. Remember, I have that policy or that concept that if I'm not hearing from you, the assumption is that you are doing great, you're moving along in this course at a pace that is appropriate. But if you do have any issues, if you have any concerns, if you have any questions, you need to contact me as soon as possible. So have a blessed week. I look forward to reading all of your problem and purpose statements, and as we build towards and we build this research prospectus together. Have a good week, and I'll talk to you all shortly.